Hey everybody, this is Dalek44, and tonight I'm going to review Doctor Who Series 9 Episode 2, The Witch's Familiar, which is Part 2 of The Magician's Apprentice. And before you ask, I'm not really sure if I'm going to review every single episode from Doctor Who Series 9, because, well, I'm honestly just not sure. You know, the main reason I wanted to review The Magician's Apprentice was because I really thought it'd be worth getting my opinions out, because even though it's the very first episode, I think it's one of the best episodes I've seen so far. And now I'm here to review its second part, The Witch's Familiar. So, as many two-parter stories, it starts off with a recap of what happened last week, so the majority of us can get a reminder of what happened. And then we cut to the deserts of Skaro outside the Dalek city, where Clara's hanging upside down on a rope and Missy's sharpening a stick, like in case she wants to go hunting or kill Clara, or whichever comes first. And at that point I was thinking, like, how did they get out of that? And I was actually kind of the same way that Clara was, like, how do we escape the Daleks? And Missy going like, no, shut up, I'm coming to that, sort of thing. And Missy just goes through this story about how the Doctor escapes these androids by using his sonic screwdriver to use the lasers to make a teleport to get himself out of there due to wearing a teleport himself. Which also explains how Clara survived that blast from the Cyber Brigadier Ledbridge Stewart and the blast from the Daleks, as well as Clara. So Missy used the same technique that the Doctor used to get away from the androids, to get away from the Cyber Brigadier and the Daleks. And that was a really clever way to answer the question of how did Missy survive. But I was under the impression that she survived by teleport anyway, with the Cyber Brigadier Ledbridge Stewart and Death in Heaven. Yeah, I was always under the impression it was some sort of teleportation device, but this episode finally answered the question. So, yeah, we have Missy and Clara working together to try and save the Doctor from the Dalek Empire, and the Doctor and Davros are still holed up in the little tower where Davros is being kept alive, and the Doctor threatens Davros with a Dalek gun, which is ancient and inoperable until the Doctor manages to make it work again. And I just thought that was a brilliant scene, like the Doctor threatening Davros with a gun. For me, that was the return of the oncoming storm. That was just the oncoming storm Doctor right there. Especially when he just yells at Davros to get out. That was just some great acting by Peter Capaldi. And then they give us the idea that Davros is leaving the infirmary and the Doctor has escaped, and the Daleks set out to find the Doctor and exterminate him. And the Daleks are shot brilliantly in this episode, by the way, as like in last week's episode. And then when Davros' chair finally gets to the Dalek command room, we find out that Davros has been removed from the chair, and which shows us why he never walks and can only use one hand, because he has no legs and one of his hands is missing. And it turns out that the Doctor was in Davros' chair all the time, which for me, that was just awesome. I just thought it was awesome to see the Doctor in Davros' chair, especially when he says the line, "Who's up for dodgems?" Yeah, that just cracked me up when I watched it. And while that's going on, Missy and Clara are down in the sewers of Skaro, where we discovered that that's where they keep all the dying Daleks. Like Dalek creatures that are decaying all go down to the sewers left to rot. Which is a creepy idea, but also quite clever. Like the sewer is the Dalek word for graveyard. Like, what do you do with dying Daleks on Skaro? I just think that's a really clever and creepy idea. So while that's going on, the Doctor uses Davros' wheelchair to gain command of the city, until Davros reveals that Colony SARS snake agents were inside the chair. And so they get the Doctor out of the chair, put Davros back in the chair, and they go back where they started, in the infirmary. And Davros is back in the chair and the Doctor is prisoner again. And Davros goes through the pipes in his infirmary that keeps him connected to the Daleks. Like, the Dalek heartbeat keeps him alive after all these years. That's quite interesting. I just found it pretty interesting that his heartbeat would be connected to the Dalek's heartbeat. And because Davros was supposedly dying, he wanted Davros... No, not Davros, sorry. He is Davros, sorry. He wanted the Doctor to take his place and see what it was like to hold the heartbeat of every Dalek and be a god. And his line, imagine to hold in your hand the heartbeat of every Dalek on Skaro. I thought that was a really good callback to Genesis of the Daleks, when Davros says, like, to hold in my hand a capsule that contains such power and all that. It was a good callback to that original line. And meanwhile, down in the sewers, Missy and Clara distract the Dalek, and the dying mutant Daleks get into that Dalek's armour and kill it. Like, I thought that was pretty interesting to see that the dying Daleks would kill a living Dalek just to, you know, get the tank. And the way Missy was taunting that Dalek was just so hilarious. Michelle Gomez just nails the part so brilliantly. Like, rather than using her traditional Scottish accent to taunt that Dalek, she uses a hilarious Western accent. Yeah, I reckon Michelle Gomez should be in a Western film in the future. She'd make a great Western character. Anyway, once that Dalek mutant was dead, Missy removes it from the armour and gets Clara to get in it, then connects her to it. So, because Clara was in the Dalek armour, everything that she said would change to something that a Dalek would say, like, I love you would mean exterminate, and I'm Clara would mean I am a Dalek. I thought that was a pretty clever idea. Like the Dalek's vocabulary would change compared to what Clara was saying inside the Dalek while connected to the Dalek dome. Yeah, that's just a brilliant idea. And I thought it was pretty interesting to hear that the Daleks say exterminate all the time to reload their weapon. I found that pretty interesting. And the moment where Clara and Missy head up to meet the Supreme Dalek, and that Dalek stops them, and that just cracked me up, like Missy taunting the Daleks and making a reference to how she fought the Supreme Dalek years ago in the classic series when she was a bloke, and then she says, like, tell him the bitch is back. Yeah, that's just a classic line, like, the bitch is back. I just thought that was hilarious for her to say it, and in a family show as well. You got balls, Russell T. Davies. You got balls, Stephen Moffat. And then said Russell T. Davies. Russell T. Davies did have Rose saying bitch once in End of the World, but that's aside from the story, sorry. Anyway, meanwhile up in the infirmary, Davros and the Doctor have another classic enemy and villains, men of science talk together, like they would in the classic series. And I think it was one of the most emotional talks they've had in a long time, because most of their talks would just be like Davros coming up with his evil schemes and the Doctor thinking of a way to stop him and pointing out how mad he is, and arguing about whether Davros was right or wrong to create the Daleks. But this one was very different. Like, because Davros was supposedly dying, he was interested to know what the Doctor's confession belt said. And then they talk about how the Doctor has killed millions of Davros' children, and how Davros has killed millions of the Time Lords. And then, of course, the Doctor breaks the news to him and says that the Time Lords and Gallifrey had been saved in the Time War. And surprisingly, Davros said that he was very happy for the Doctor and congratulated him, because he felt that a man should have a home and people and should belong. Yeah, that was really surprising for the Doctor's arch-enemy to say such nice things to the Doctor. And I normally do get some tear-jerking moments from Doctor Who, but for this week's episode, the tear-jerking moment was when Davros opened his real eyes for the first time and told the Doctor to protect the Time Lords, like Davros sought to protect his people, and then asked the Doctor if he was a good man and if he did right. Yeah, even though I did still have my suspicions that it was just a ruse, that moment really did convince me. And, yeah, that scene literally had me in tears the first time I watched it, because it was just so emotional, and I think it must have been the first time I've seen Julian Bleach played like a weak, dying old man who wants to know if he did good before he dies. Yeah, I think that was the most emotional I've seen Judy in Bleach, and Davros for that matter. Yeah, it was just so beautifully written, beautifully acted, and beautifully directed. And then they have this little laugh about how the Doctor isn't a very good doctor since he doubted that Davros really was dying. And I just found it a real surprise to find out that Davros could use his real eyes and could willingly turn off his vision sensor. And his line, "Let me see your face with my own eyes," that actually reminded me of Return of the Jedi when Darth Vader was dying and he asked Luke to help him take off his mask so he can look at Luke with his own eyes just once before he dies. Yeah, that was a real Return of the Jedi moment there. I'm starting to think that Stephen Moffat must be getting inspiration from Star Wars films for some of these moments. And Missy and Clara, disguised as the Dalek, go into the Dalek control room and address the Supreme Dalek to see Davros. And of course the Daleks are rejecting the offer, but Missy, as always, is trying to find a way to get what she wants, as the Master would do. And then we cut back to the infirmary to see the Doctor actually helping Davros, but like the Doctor said, he wasn't really helping Davros. He was actually helping the little boy that he left to die years ago because he felt like he owed him. And which is interesting because Davros was that little boy that he left to die. So he felt guilty then and felt that he owed the little boy who was gone. And then when Davros was about to lose his life permanently, like properly die, the Doctor used up a bit of his regeneration energy to revive Davros. But then, catching me by surprise, it turned out to be a ruse so that the Davros could give himself and the Daleks the power of regeneration so that the Daleks would grow stronger than ever before. Even though I did have my doubts that Davros really was dying and that he was up to something, as Davros always is, his moment before really did suck me in. He had me believing there, and then, big surprise, he was actually lying the whole time. That clever son of a bitch. And Missy goes in to save the Doctor from this thing where Colony Sarf is holding him in tight, and she uses a Dalek weapon to shoot Colony Sarf, killing him permanently. And it was another rare moment where the Master would actually go and save the Doctor's life. Because the last time I remember seeing her do that was in the End of Time Part 2 when she saved the Doctor from Rassilon. So that was the second time I've seen her save the Doctor. Which is pretty understandable, because even though they're arch enemies, they were still best friends when they were kids. So it's quite understandable. And then Davros is, of course, filled with joy that his plan to make the Daleks stronger than ever worked. And the Daleks have new powers and are chanting all praise Davros because the experiment was successful, and they were actually grateful for Davros for doing this for them. Because even though the Daleks do treat Davros pretty badly, as we've seen in past stories, they still need his genius and his technology to grow stronger. Because he's their creator, they need him for certain things. And then it was all revealed by the Doctor that the Doctor actually knew what was going on, and he used his regeneration energy to bring the dying Daleks in the sewers back to life so that they would come up through the pipes to kill the Daleks in the Dalek city, which was really clever. And then the Doctor, being the Doctor, ran for it and left Davros to die. And Missy went after him too, right after, saying how nice it was to meet Davros for the first time, and then going to shake his hand but then poking him in the vision sensor. Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, I think that, to me, I think that was kind of a little punishment for Davros being the Doctor's arch enemy when she considers herself to be the Doctor's arch enemy. Yeah, that was hilarious. And another tear-jerking moment for me was when Clara, disguised as a Dalek, finds the Doctor and tries to tell him that she is Clara, but everything that comes out of her mouth is what a Dalek would say, like things from a Dalek vocabulary. And then when Missy turns up, she lies to the Doctor, of course, saying that Clara was the Dalek that killed Clara. What a bitch. But what do you expect for the Master? She is pretty evil and all that stuff. And the Doctor is, of course, given the Dalek gun to kill that Dalek that Missy said killed Clara. But as Clara's begging for her life and telling him not to shoot him, the words come out in the Dalek as mercy, which we heard previously when the Stone Dalek faced River Song. I was surprised back then to find out that the Daleks understood the vocabulary of mercy. And the Doctor was even surprised too, because I think this is the very first time that the Doctor saw Dalek begging him for mercy. Because normally they just go in for the kill straight away. But this was a big surprise for the Doctor to see that Dalek would beg for mercy. And then when Clara uses her mind to open up the Dalek casing, the Doctor finds out it was Clara all along, and Missy's just there pretending that she had no idea when she's obviously bullshitting the Doctor. So the Doctor gives Missy advice and tells her to run, and Missy says it's not me who ran all those years ago, it was you. And then she runs. And then the Doctor and Clara, of course, try to escape the Dalek city, having to go through the Dalek control room, where pretty much every Dalek has been killed by the dying mutants, all except for some of them and even the Supreme Dalek. And then we have this amazing discovery that the TARDIS wasn't really destroyed, but it was just a defense mechanism, and the Doctor just had to reactivate it with his new sonic device, which was sonic sunglasses. And I will admit, I do hope that the sonic screwdriver does come back in the future, but for now I think the sonic sunglasses are pretty cool. Just like the Doctor putting them on and pressing the side of it, and it just does what he wants it to do. That's a nice upgrade for sonic technology. And then Missy runs into this room where she's cornered by an army of Daleks, and just as the city's about to blow up, she says, "I've had an extremely clever idea." But before we hear what the idea is, the city gets destroyed, with the Doctor and Clara watching on a hill. And even though they won, the Doctor finds it confusing that when Clara was in the Dalek, and she made it say mercy, which he found very confusing because mercy shouldn't exist in the Dalek's vocabulary. And then right before the episode ends, we cut back to where the Magician's Apprentice left us off, with the Doctor looking like he was going to exterminate the child Davros. But then it turns out that he actually used the gun to shoot the hand mines to save Davros. And then he offers to take young Davros home and tells him that friends and foes don't really matter as long as there's mercy, always mercy. Which gives us the revelation as to why the Daleks knew anything about mercy in their vocabulary banks, even though they knew nothing of pity. So that was quite a nice little thing for us. Davros gave the Daleks the concept of mercy, just because the Doctor taught him that there's always mercy. So yeah, what did I think of the episode? Well, like The Magician's Apprentice, I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with it the second it ended. Yeah, all the way through I loved it to bits. And the effects are awesome, and it's really good to see so many classic things show up in the episode, like the Daleks, of course, and some lines that were referring back to classic Davros stories, and Missy talking about how she met the Daleks before, which is true. She did meet them when she was the Master in the classic series. And Peter Capaldi, once again, a wonderful performance, and the moments where he was being really angry at Davros and the Daleks, for me that was the oncoming storm again. For me that was a Doctor moment where he was the oncoming storm. Yeah, it was just amazing. And Jenna Coleman, yeah, she was good as well. I did enjoy her on screen, especially when working off Missy, which I found really must have been really challenging for the character Clara because Missy killed her boyfriend in the show, and especially that bit where Clara threatens Missy with her sharp stick, and like Missy challenges her to actually kill her, but Clara doesn't bring herself to do it, and then Missy just snatches the stick off her and says, like, word of advice, if you're gonna nick my stick, be willing to use it. Yeah, that's just brilliant. And I thought Jenna was really good inside the Dalek casing. Like, there must have been a tight squeeze for the actress. She must have had quite a bit of fun inside that Dalek. So, yeah, Jenna Coleman, great as always. And Michelle Gomez, what can you say about Michelle Gomez? She's bloody hilarious. Like, every scene with Michelle Gomez as Missy always cracks me up every time. Like, even the moments where she's working with Clara, like when she makes the stick and they're like, can I have a stick? Make your own stick, and all that. And one moment that really, really made me laugh is when they're talking about how deep that hole possibly is, and they're like, should we chuck a rock down there? And Missy's like, yeah, okay, and pushes her in. Yeah, that's brilliant. And as I mentioned, the moment where Michelle Gomez uses that Texan accent to taunt the Dalek, that was awesome. I reckon they should cast Michelle Gomez as a Western character for a Western film in the future. I think she'd be great. Like, even if Disney had plans to make a sequel to The Lone Ranger, I think Michelle Gomez would be good as a Western character for a Lone Ranger sequel. Yeah, as always, Michelle Gomez cracks me up, and I look forward to seeing her again in the future. And Julian Bleach as Davros, what can you say about Julian Bleach? He was awesome as Davros, as always. And in this one we get to see more of the insane Davros that we know, rather than faking his own dying Davros. And I think it's also the first time I've seen Davros and Julian Bleach be emotional. Because it was the first time I've seen Davros cry and open his eyes for the first time. And I think it makes sense that Davros would ask the Doctor if he was a good man and if he was right. Because Davros wasn't really totally evil. He didn't start off as evil. He just wanted to protect his own race from destruction. But his desire to protect his own race led to him going insane and wanting his creations to become the rulers of the universe. So his determinations that his people would survive turned into conquest for conquering and destroying all other life forms. So they just made him a bit more personalised. Like, they made him sort of like, kind of like Darth Vader, where he's doing these nasty things but not knowing that it's bad things. Like he's the kind of villain who doesn't know he's evil. And I think that's what makes an interesting villain. Like, the kind of villain who's doing so many bad things but doesn't know that they're bad people. Like they're just thinking like, this would be better for the universe, it'd be better for everyone. But Davros has no goodness in him. Like, all that goodness died out long ago. So yeah, Julian Bleach was awesome, and I look forward to seeing him as Davros again in the future. And as for Davros and Missy, I really do hope that they make another episode with Davros and Missy together, because I think that Davros and Missy should have more interactions together, and I think that, yeah, they're both brilliant playing off each other. I hope they make an episode where both Davros and Missy have more time together on screen, because I think you could make a really good Davros and Missy episode. Like, because Missy has known the Daleks, but this was the first time she actually met the creator. So I think it'd really be interesting to see a full episode with Missy and Davros, like either being against each other or perhaps working together. I think that'd be an interesting idea. So overall, The Witch's Apprentice was a really good episode. It was better than I expected it to be, like last week's episode. And when I said The Magician's Apprentice had 10 out of 10 so far, it's still 10 out of 10, and for The Witch's Familiar it's another 10 out of 10. Great episode, a great start to the series, and I look forward to the rest of the series as it goes on. So that's all I've got to say for The Witch's Familiar. Great acting, great writing, great effects, great to see all the classic Daleks as well as the new Daleks. 10 out of 10 for the story overall. And if you add the 10 out of 10 together for each episode, then that would make 20 out of 20. Yeah, but yeah, you could do that if you want. It's a two-parter. So yeah, that was my review of Doctor Who: The Witch's Familiar. 10 out of 10 for that, as well as 10 out of 10 for The Magician's Apprentice. Great start to the new series. And I'll see you later, guys. Cheerio.